Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Marin. I lead Applied Quantum. I'm a former CISO, and I have to say that I sleep much better since I'm not a CISO anymore. A former Big Four partner and failed quantum entrepreneur. And lately, I am dealing with this intersection of quantum and cybersecurity. Today, I'd like to give you in this very brief lightning speech just a bit of an introduction into practical preparation for the quantum threat. We have experience, we've been dealing with this with a number of clients, and we are learning what works, what doesn't work in this preparation. So, on a very high level, this is how every organization is already or will have to start soon preparing for the quantum threat. This is, of course, a very simplified view, but it all starts from the cryptographic inventory. Then you decide what you are going to do with those vulnerabilities or quantum vulnerabilities that you uncover, various approaches to mitigate the risk, and then, of course, continuous validation, all the while embedding crypto agility into your technology and the organization and so on. Now, we want to tackle today in this brief session maybe the first two steps. So preparation for the quantum threat, or let's call it quantum readiness, is already happening. There are certain regulatory requirements, executive orders from late 2022 in the US, which require from the government agencies, or more recently from the various critical infrastructure operators, to start actively preparing for the quantum threat. One of the reasons is that after several decades of working on quantum computers, there has been so many developments in the last 2 years, especially, that most of the industry is kind of converging their thinking and their expectations or predictions for the cryptographically or cryptanalytically relevant quantum computers to arrive in early 2030s. If that's the case, if we are really going to have quantum computers that can break our current cryptography in use, like RSA, if we are going to have that in the next 7 years or 6 or 8 years, then the preparation has to start right now. You all probably know that there is a new post-quantum cryptography standard that the NIST has issued in August last year. What you might not know is that mostly based on that standard, there is lots of new regulations coming out. In the last few weeks, we had UK, Italy, Israel, many other either national cybersecurity agencies or sectoral regulators have been issuing some guidelines, some already very specific regulations, either encouraging or enforcing the organizations in their purview to start actively preparing for the arrival of quantum computers. Most of those, or not most, all, as far as I know, all of these regulations and guidelines expect the organizations to start with performing cryptographic inventory. And what does that mean? It means finding all of the uses of quantum vulnerable cryptography that exists within the organization. And the expectations in terms of the timelines are that those organizations would complete their cryptographic inventories by, well, 2023 in the case of US federal agencies, or 2028 in case of the recent UK regulation, but in the next few years. Now, if you haven't tackled that yet, you might you might need to think about starting it very soon, because getting cryptographic inventory for any larger or very large organization is a huge effort. It lasts years. Personally, I've been working with Telco, which has been on this challenge for the last 10 years, and they still don't feel that they are done. So why is it so challenging? Because cryptography is not a single, authentication somewhere at the server or at the network edge. Cryptography, well, basically, every single server, application, laptop, device, IoT device, everything that exists in your IT and OT estate will have to be analyzed and most likely mitigated in some way, because there is no single device or an application or a system that doesn't have cryptography somewhere. Whether it's the hashing for the integrity check of the updates, whether it's the authentication, or for a million other reasons. And those are typically layers of cryptography, from the application to the embedded libraries, open source libraries, all the way to the, chip trusted or hardware modules. So identifying which cryptography in your estate is vulnerable is a multi-year project for almost anyone. And there is a bit of my personal pet peeve. Unfortunately, today in the market, a kind of state of the practice approach is that organizations engage consultants which promise to do a manual interview-based cryptographic discovery. About 80% of the clients that that reach out to us are either in a middle or have already done a manual interview-based cryptographic inventory discovery. If there is something that I would like you to take away from my session today, is that does not work. There is no chance it's going to work. It's completely useless. It might be a bit of a feel-good exercise. They might still be certain, internal auditors that would accept such an exercise and give a tick in a checkbox. But other than that, this approach does not work. It's stale immediately after it's done. It does not discover anything that is really impactful, and it's a waste of money. Most importantly, regulators now in the US and elsewhere have caught up with this, and they are now explicitly asking for automated or tool-supported discovery. Now, tool-supported or automated discovery is not a silver bullet solution either. Quite a few challenges with that. There is a number of different tools on the market, which are all excellent tools, but they use a certain approach, whether they are passively listening on the network and try to detect the patterns, the fingerprints of vulnerable cryptography, handshakes, or the source code scanners, such as the IBM solution. They all tackle a certain bit of cryptographic inventory of the cryptographic discovery. But in order to do a very comprehensive one, you would need to use multiple tools and, of course, have multiple dashboards and reports, which you would then have to normalize and deduplicate and align and so on. But even more than that, not even these tools can discover everything or every layer of those embedded cryptography that we discussed previously. So there is still bits that are missing even when you use multiple tools. Many of you would know you can't really go and scan all of your estate, especially, let's say, in the OT operating environments. So you can't do that. You can't get access to some of the most critical systems, and the most critical systems are the ones that you should actually evaluate in the most detail. So challenges with access, challenges with multiple solutions, all of that makes a fully automated discovery also very often not feasible, or at least not easy. So the pragmatic approach is a bit of a combination. It's a bit of a middle path. I'm focusing, or I'm spending a bit more time on this cryptographic inventory exactly because most of the organizations have either already started that or are about to start, especially in the light of the new and upcoming regulations. So one way to resolve this, or the approach we would like to recommend and consider, is a bit of a middle path. You do quality, you focus on the critical jewels, critical IT, long-lived secrets, and so on. It has to be tool assisted, but it's unlikely that you would be able to do deep scans on absolutely everything in your estate. So you do a bit of a surface scan based on the criticality and on the risk. You select what needs to be evaluated a little bit more in depth. Then you perform additional level of scanning, and it's all very iterative. So you do validate that through manual efforts. You continuously reconcile all of the outputs that you get. You do the risk assessment all over again about the findings, and figure out what to do and how to approach with the things that you find. The next step in all of this is now to take all of these findings and create a bit of a cryptographic strategy, or decide what to do with each quantum vulnerable finding in your estate, and how to mitigate it. You will hear later today about the post-quantum cryptography. You are probably aware of the NIST efforts in standardizing PQC algorithms. And of course, the best and the correct solution is to upgrade all of the cryptography to the quantum resistant or the post-quantum cryptography. Unfortunately, in real life, that's not always possible for various reasons. Some cryptography might be controlled by vendors, and it's impossible to do it other than trying to push the vendors to replace it with a PQC. Some others might not have the computational or the bandwidth to deal with some of the more demanding PQC algorithms, and so on and on. So the other message in my last 2 minutes is that once you've done your cryptographic inventory and you start to preparing for how to mitigate this risk, keep in mind that there are various options you can do. Like every one of our clients, you will still find old TLS or export grade ciphers. So you'll get some immediate benefits in immediately hardening or replacing those that are already obsolete and vulnerable. Of course, you should figure out what are the cryptographic libraries and solutions, algorithms that you can immediately replace with PQC, with the post-quantum cryptography. But you can also do certain hybrid solutions, at least in the interim. You can have a double encryption. You can try and reduce the risk by segmenting the systems or tokenizing the data. You can start deploying some of the PQC-ready hardware. So the next step for you in this whole journey is going to be developing the mitigation strategy, keeping in mind that there are various options that can reduce your risk exposure, even if you can't directly upgrade to PQC, which of course would be the best solution. So with that, I'm finishing my 15 minutes. I just want to repeat that if you haven't started yet quantum preparation, you will have to do it soon, because that's what regulators are asking. Even if quantum computers are 7 or 15 years away, By the way, we in applied quantum, we are confident that it's about 7 years away, but even if they end up coming in 17 years, the regulators are acting now. And that's all from me for now. I think we have another session for the Q&A, right?